Guys, look, we wanted to sit here today and give you a review of The Division 2, but to be honest, we're just so disappointed. I don't know really where to start, but I mean, number one, a loading screen doesn't take 10 minutes. Very upsetting. Number two, when I jump on, I'm not getting disconnected constantly.
I'm also finding myself enjoying it. It's like, how the hell are laymen going to get new subscribers
Or memes out of this.
when publishers are releasing good video games? I don't understand. I'm so heartbroken by this. It's just, we were hoping for another Fallout 76 or Anthem, and what we got was like a functional video game. I'm fucking
It
outraged.
feels very weird.
I'm outraged. Okay, so The Division 2. Sam, please take off your EA branded community feedback blinders.
Well, I thought that we'd be also talking about Anthem today and
Oh,
comparing it.
don't worry, we will be doing some Anthem grills. Don't
So
worry
I
about
need
that.
to keep
There'll
these
be lots.
on.
There'll be lots of Anthem roasting today.
Logan, you are my hero.
The Division 2 came out a little bit over a week ago now. The Division 2 had a fair amount of hype behind it because obviously, you know, it's a big Ubisoft open world title. It's a looter shooter. It's a live service. The first game launched famously badly with just terrible optimization, terrible performance, exploits, really bad design, etc., etc. But over time, they got the game to a really good place, and in patch 1.8, which was the last major patch they did, the game was actually in a really strong place, and everyone was kind of like, yeah, tick, this is now a good game.
Yeah, it was very much like the Taken King in that regard. Like they kind of they worked their way back to getting it to a game that was extremely polished, and you know, it was the start of the looter shooter kind of genre too back in those and back at that time where Destiny was taking a stab and Division was taking a stab. I think maybe a lot of people would have been worried, are they going to do a Destiny 2 with this? Are they going to go back to the start,
That's true.
make some game, and it's like, okay, this is not even Division 1, it's like Division 0.5.
Sure.
You know?
And I think that everyone agrees at this point that this is not a step backwards. In fact, this is a pretty big step forward for this genre, and that Ubisoft have really outdone themselves with this title. You know, I'm extremely impressed with the Division 2. Like, I was really expecting just more Division, but I think that in every area, almost every area, I should say, the game is a noticeable step up versus the predecessor, and I do think it has something to offer to a lot of people, even those that weren't a fan of the Division 1, because I think it solves a lot of the problems inherent in that first game.
And I think we're going to have two different things here, because although I've been following the Division's progress through the years, I am not a Division 1 fan, okay? I'm just not a Division 1 fan.
Me either.
Ralph doesn't like
I was
it
just
either.
a YouTube sellout, man. I was just doing it for the dollars.
That's right. And I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting today. A hardcore loser, okay, versus the person that's just new to the Division 2. Experiencing it for the first...
New to most video games.
New to most video games, okay? And look, let's start with the story. Okay, we've come from Destiny Poo, we've come from Anthem story. I'm very disappointed to see how bad this story actually is.
Yeah, it sucks.
But like, I get it. It's not about the story with this, you know.
But at the same time as well, Anthem had a shitty story, but it had a swing out.
But it tried for it.
And I think, you know, and Destiny 2 as well. Like, it had a very generic, you know, bad guy wants things story. And
White Darth Vader.
It sucked. It was White Darth Vader, that's
Yeah.
right. It sucked, but again, they sort of tried. Versus with the Division 2, they just don't try at all. There's nothing there. Nothing. Like, there's just some awkward cutscenes with people that look really weird.
Oh
They
my
have
god,
weird
the facial,
faces.
man, it looks like freaking Mass Effect 3.
No, way worse than that.
Oh,
It looks
bro.
like they have like sticky putty and they put it on people's faces at certain points, and it just looks
It's
so
very.
bad.
I'm surprised that like we've seen some great like mocap in 2019.
Yeah.
To see this stuff, I'm just like, what's going on here? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? But I just think the story in general, it's more than like boring. It's like confusing. It's like it's so disjointed and boring. Like, I just don't know what's going on half the time because I just don't care.
But by the end of it, there are no characters in the story that you remember. There are no villains that you've been fighting against, and there's no kind of like arc. There's no like, oh, we have to do this thing at the start of the game. Oh, we did this thing at the end of the game. There's none of that. It's just kind of like you did all of the missions. credits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's it. So
I feel, yeah, and also with the missions themselves, I thought they were actually pretty fun to do.
yes.
They were relatively long, I'll definitely say that, my god. But one thing is for sure. They love their wave missions. My god, wave enemies just over and over again. And maybe that is the Division in a nutshell. Fair enough. But
Yeah.
I've seen other looter shooters come along. They give you more diverse, interesting ways that you have to complete quests that don't make you feel like every room is just wave, 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 wave. It just has a different way of presenting that quest.
Like what game? What loot is that?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just like, you know, Destiny 2, for instance, that whole campaign, I didn't feel like it was just a barrage of just, you know, slowly moving forward. It had a pace to it that Division doesn't have, because I feel like the wave enemies is just constantly the thing that you do all the time, you know?
I don't agree with that. I mean, I do think that structurally those games are very similar in terms of you go into a room, there's some enemies that spawn, you kill the enemies, then some new enemies spawn, you kill them and you move to the next room. Okay?
I think
that's identical across the two.
Okay.
But with Destiny, you are feeling like you have more momentum because you are constantly moving around. It's very much about your own personal power fantasy. You're like a one-man army. But with the Division 2, the combat is much more static, much more sort of like grounded behind cover, much more strategic in many ways.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that it can make it feel a lot slower in terms of the way you're moving through it.
I do like the cover system, and I think it works really well, but maybe that's it. Maybe just the constant feeling like you can just only slowly move forward. That, for me, maybe is the most fatiguing thing about Division.
I can understand that, and that's partly by design. And I guess, you know, talking about the combat specifically,
Yeah.
I'm so impressed by this combat. I do think that if you haven't played the Division 1, and you're just sort of looking at this combat, you might think it looks the same, but it's so vastly different because every parameter has been changed to make the combat far more strategic. You can't just YOLO out and just run into big groups of enemies now because you will die. You know, like you need to be strategic. It's almost like playing XCOM. I swear to God, if you've played XCOM, it's that sort of like, you know, that strategy game where you got to move your dudes around the map and you got to be behind cover. Playing the Division feels like real-time XCOM at this point because you need to think about your positioning and you need to plan ahead for things rather than just like, oh, I'll just shoot everything in the face and then move on to the next room.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, if you're a new player to Division, I was surprised how difficult this goddamn game was.
It's a hard game.
It's a really
solo.
hard game, especially when you get careless and especially when you get frustrated. You're like, oh my god, I just want to move forward.
Yeah.
Those are the moments, if you are out of cover for like 2 seconds, you are
Yeah.
fucking dead.
That's true.
You know, it's crazy to... I was going to say, it's crazy to see the intelligence of that AI. You know, I've never seen AI that is so intelligent in terms of understands your position, understands where to put themselves to kind of just throw you out, you know, and it's very well done in terms of each combat situation.
I think, and what I said in my review was that the difficulty scales in the same way that I think Halo's difficulty scales, which is to say, yeah, the enemies can't become like, you know, more bullet spongy and whatever else, but really, like, enemies in Halo get harder because they're faster and smarter, you know, like they're more deadly, they're more lethal, rather than just like more bullet sacks, you know, and it really feels like that with the Division. It has some of the best, it has the best AI in the looter shooter genre.
I've never seen a better
No
AI.
question about
Yeah.
that. It has some of the best AI that across any game right now, to be honest, because most games aren't trying to make interesting AI. They're just trying to make enemies that like stand out in the open.
I know.
And they're like, please shoot me.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
fine because like Destiny, for example, is built around that. But this is also another way to do it, and it's just such a great experience to be like, fuck, he flanked me again, or
Yeah, and-
damn it, he used just the right ability at the right time to fuck me over. It's just so good.
And there are moments where like just enemies run at you and shit. It's like there is a mixture of that,
is,
you
yeah,
know,
very
and
much.
that's kind of good. But sometimes I was looking at the screen, and I'm going, can't you just be dumb like the other games for fuck's sake? Like it got to a point where I did respect the AI too, like so much that I was just longing for the good old days when AI would just sit there in the open and shoot
Sure,
you,
it was,
you know.
yeah.
But it's a good. I think it'll set a really good precedent for other games moving forward. Of like this should be how AI really acts, you know, because we're getting to the stage where graphics are super, you know, ultra 4K and they look amazing. But the AI, has that really changed over the last 10 years?
Not at all.
Not really. I feel like that's maybe the next thing that they need to be tackling.
Dumb as dog shit.
Yeah.
Graphically, the game is beautiful. The rendition of Washington, D.C. is phenomenal, but it's the open world that's particularly interesting in its design because there are so many things going on around you in this open world. The campaign, you can rush through it in about 12 hours. I spent 35 hours on the campaign. And that's just the early parts of the campaign as well. That's not like the late game stuff where you go through the world tiers and whatever. Purely because I was spending so much time just doing open world events, exploring stuff, just fucking around in the open world. There's so much to do. And I just think that it's a new benchmark for the genre. Like, if you were going to design an open world looter shooter game, you would take a lot of the lessons from this open world design and apply them to other games because it just feels so rich and dynamic.
Yeah, I feel like when you are making a cover system game, every single bit of environment has to be deliberate. And I think that will automatically generate a pretty interesting world because, yeah, every single area, they have to, like, really consciously think about where they're placing things. I think an open world game can sometimes get away with, let's just throw some shit around here. This isn't an important area. But, I mean, again, with this kind of, small street, or, Washington, D.C., very dense city, everything becomes a lot more deliberate. Definitely. And I think they've done a really great job at that. Like, every single area I went to, I found, like, where the enemies were, I found a passageway to how to kill them, how to strategically kind of work that battlefield, and it all felt like it was all very planned, and I like that a lot.
Definitely. In terms of monetization, it's got, like, a cash shop where you can buy specific items. It has loot boxes as well, unfortunately. You can earn everything for free in-game, though. Everything they sell in either the store or the loot boxes can be earned in-game through a variety of means, so that's fine, I guess. We don't like loot boxes in games at all.
Yeah.
Much rather they wouldn't be there. To be honest, I don't even really care how my agent looks a lot of the time because it's all such ghetto gear.
It's the least fashion-framed game ever. You just don't give a shit.
I don't give a shit how I care a lot how my like Guardian looks in Destiny. Like I care a lot how my character looks in a lot of games.
And WoW, for instance, my God, that was the game to care
But
about.
I never cared at all about how my agent looked because like it all looked shit to me. So I was like, oh, whatever. But so no, that's the monetization side of it. Also, all future content is going to be free because it's being financed by the microtransactions and stuff. So that's nice to know. Any future content is going to be there. In the future, they're adding an entirely new section to the endgame, World Tier 5, with, new challenges and all that sort of stuff. And they're also going to be adding a raid. It's the first time the Division's going to have something like that. We don't know what that's going to be like, but that's that. PvP, I haven't even jumped into PvP yet. Like, I did, 1 or 2 matches. I don't play this game for PvP. It doesn't interest me.
I didn't do that, actually.
I will give it a good look later on, but I know that it's third-person PvP with, cover-based stuff. If you like that, cool. I think from what I've seen, it's a better version of it. I know a lot of PvPers disagree with that, and they think that it's a worse version of it. Your mileage may vary. I just think that if you're interested in a game for PvP, I don't believe The Division is the game you should be playing. I think you should be playing other things. But if, this really clicks for you and you're really interested in it, then great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
but look, I think overall, it's not Anthem, which is good.
Overall, it's not Anthem.
As long as it's
it
not
actually
Anthem,
works.
It actually works. The loading screens are really fine, okay? I think all in all...
But, go on.
Here we go. I was just going to say, all in all, I feel like if someone was to ask me, did I enjoy this game? It's one of those games where I respect what it's doing. I respect the mechanics. I respect the time and effort into the environment. It's not a game that really resonates with me personally, but I can respect a game at the same time and go, this is not for me, this is for another type of audience, So I would definitely suggest people that did enjoy Destiny, did enjoy kind of the looter shooter genre, to definitely check this out. This is definitely worth that. But don't go there for the story, for God's sakes. Go there because you just want to feel, a very well thought out world that has a really solid grind to it.
Yeah, so this game is, for me, in terms of my genre, it's my jam. And I would say that it really is just an exceptional example of what the looter shooter genre is capable of. I think it raises the bar for the looter shooter genre through its open world design and its incredibly strategic combat. I do believe that, one of the reasons why I think everyone was so pissed off with Anthem was because it felt like it had learned nothing. It felt like it had ignored every lesson from the looter shooter genre over the last 20 years. And I think The Division 2 feels really good because it feels like a game that has listened to all of those lessons and incorporated all of those lessons. It feels like a really contemporary looter shooter that is reflective of all of the learning that's come before. So for that reason, I just think it's a really great product. I really recommend it to fans of the genre, and I'd say absolutely well done, Ubisoft. You guys totally nailed it on this one.
Totally.
That's our review, guys.
The money will be arriving from
That's
Ubisoft anytime now. Okay.
Good. My laundry is done.
Guys, we will be. What's our next thing? We'll probably do actually impressions of Sekiro. Actually,
Yeah.
that's the next thing that we're going to be doing. For
So
you.
excited for Sekiro.
So
It's
excited.
Sam's first Souls-like game. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, I
going to
have
be
played it
so-
for like that's a story. Okay, well we'll tell it next
He's played
time.
like 3 minutes of like Dark Souls.
I am very excited for this game though. So until next time, see you, fam.
Damn, 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 crispy crunch. Damn, look at the bacon. Damn, get yourself that double cheeseburger. Damn, 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 get a grocery bag. Damn, the cheese is oozing. Damn.